Hey guys, welcome back to In the Alley. I'm not going to waste any time here just with this introduction, mainly just for timestamps here onto the side. That's where the previews are going to be. Let's get into it. Alright, so first preview, 3:05 Central Time, YouTube and Caffeine TV live from the Denny Sanford Premier Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The Tulsa Oilers 1-1, taking on the Sioux Falls Storm, who are 0-2. It's weird to say that. Let's take a look at the leaders on each team. Daniel Smith leads in passing and rushing for Tulsa. And on the Sioux Falls side, it's Billy Hall for the passing. Daniel Smith doesn't lead for both. That's a copy and paste error on my end. But Billy Hall leads for Sioux Falls on the offense on the rushing and passing side for the Storm. Wide receivers Joshua Crockett and Kentrez Bell lead in their respective teams. Kentrez Bell with 40 more yards receiving and one more touchdown. Defensively, quite a few tackles for Sioux Falls. Having to play Massachusetts and Quad City will probably do that to you, but 15 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, and 1 fumble recovery for Black at the linebacker position. It's pretty damn good. On the other side, you got Jones, Rookie of the Year, first team All Indoor Football League. He's kind of got to get into his own here a little bit. 10 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. It's not a lot right now, but with this kind of game right here, maybe Bryson Denley, Xavier Jackson run the ball. Billy Hall is known to run the ball a little bit. Maybe Jones can get a few more tackles today. Trey Harvey, 9.5 tackles, 1 pick, 1 pass breakup. You'll see down there for the players to watch. The other defensive back for Tulsa, Elijah Reed, 10.5 tackles, 2 pass breakups on the Storm side, and you can't count out the secondary for Sioux Falls as well. Need a little bit more on the defensive lines for both teams. Noah Lyle, 7.5 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss and 3 sacks. Dejon Emery, 4.5 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss and 2 pass breakups. Those guys are getting there. Those guys are getting after the quarterback, creating pressure, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me thinking that the defensive line just needs to wreck the offensive line. That's just my personal opinion, I guess. And they are getting after him, but I expect just a little bit more. But I do that with every team. It's no issue with these two personally. But defensively and offensively, these teams are pretty even. This should be a pretty good game. Players to watch: Daniel Smith. Last game versus Iowa, 19 of 26, 120 yards, no passing touchdowns. 11 rushes, 57 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. He was getting them all on the ground. I look for a little bit more of the same. I don't necessarily know what to make of Sioux Falls' defense right now. Granted, most teams have only played 2 or 3 games. Sioux Falls has had to go up against Massachusetts and Quad City. So you can kind of take the first couple of games, especially the first game, not necessarily out of the equation because the stats still count, the games still count, but a lot of those games, the first week, first 2 weeks, things along those lines are pretty tough to kind of gauge like, oh, this team is automatically a champion. I still don't know what to make of Sioux Falls defense. If they can get after Daniel Smith and shut down a dual threat quarterback, I have a little more confidence in Sioux Falls defense. If Daniel Smith is able to run all over them, that's going to be another issue. Now, I know Smith does a lot of like sneaks and things along those lines. He does tend to scramble a little bit as well, but I don't know. 3 touchdowns on only 57 yards. He wasn't necessarily running the ball too much. Only 11 rushes. I think a couple of those were sneaks to get in. So we'll see what happens. If they get pressure on him, is he going to scramble? Can they contain the pocket? Can they contain the scramble? What does Sioux Falls defense do? Defensive back, Ramon Morris, 4.5 tackles, 2 picks, 1 pass breakup. Defensive player of the week. Dude was all over the place. I expect more of the same. You've got to lock down Kentrez Bell. You've got to lock down Carlos Thompson. Trey Harvey's got to get in there. Galden's got to get in there. I'm blanking on number 4. Tell me in the comments who number 4 is. I know we'll get to it in the 25-man roster, whatever. I'm just blanking on who that is. It'll come to me. But yeah, Ramon Morris, Trey Harvey, all of the defensive backs, they've got to get after it. It's going to be tough to shut down the passing game. Sioux Falls always has a chance as long as you have 2 really good receivers on their end, not to mention 2 really good running backs as well. Speaking of Sioux Falls, Kentrez Bell, like I just said, 3 catches, 71 yards, 1 touchdown against Massachusetts in their last game. He's got to break out. You want to say, hey, you were the defensive player of the week. Not this week. We're going to do this to you. Look for him to get a little bit of it. Billy Hall is probably going to run. They're going to run a little bit to open up the passing game. Kentrez Bell and Carlos Thompson and Lorenzo Thompson probably have to be those guys to really make it Sioux Falls to win. So I look for Kentrez Bell to kind of be that guy, maybe a decoy in a little bit of a sense, but I look for a little bit more of that stat line as well. A couple more catches, maybe 100 yards receiving, another touchdown or two. Linebacker Amin Black, last game, 8.5 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, and 1 fumble recovery. Guy's good. If he can replicate that and keep Daniel Smith either in the pocket or get after him and force pressure and throwaways and things along those lines, he's going to have a good game. Just because he's not getting tackles or just because linebackers aren't getting tackles doesn't mean they're not disrupting the game. I know I'm guilty of overlooking that. The stats mean everything to me. But if he's causing pressure, if he's wreaking havoc up the middle or getting after the running backs and things along those lines, he can have a really good game here for Sioux Falls. Series history, Tulsa 0-2 against Sioux Falls in the last meeting. It was a close game. I think Tulsa had a chance to win it there late. Sioux Falls 35-34 in week 14 of last year. It's going to be close. 1.5 point favorites for Sioux Falls at home. Kind of a pick 'em for the money line and over under 77.5 for the total points. That being said, let's go check out the 25-man roster, our best bets, and go do previews 2 and 3. All right, 25-man roster popping up here. Taylor Hawkins, number 4. I knew I forgot his name. Sorry, Taylor. I know you were in the backfield or the defensive secondary. My fault. A couple of changes to Tulsa. Late additions, Austin Neufeld. Again, I got to repeat myself here. These 21 are the guys that played in the last game for starters. There have been some changes. You see them down below. Austin Neufeld, for instance, he's not going to play in this game. Michael Hull has been signed. He played with Tucson last year as a kicker. Look for him to be booting it. He's a left-footed kicker too. So he's an anomaly, man. Left-footed kickers. Another big name, Gerard Ware Jr. from Northern Arizona. He played in the game against Arizona in the first week of the season, and Tulsa signed him. So Montero Dubose is not going to play as well. I forgot to cross him out. Gerard Ware Jr. is going to slot right in. Look for him to make an immediate impact. I'm not sure who they're going to tinker with when it comes to who's starting on the offense and defensive lines. Does Thomas Prater get in? He's a new signee. Does Courtney Ledyard stay in, or do you just keep it, status quo? Defensive backs, Eric Mays, Travion Bryant, do they get into the game? Or again, you've been pretty good on the defensive secondary for Tulsa. I look for kind of more of the same, maybe 1 or 2 changes on that 21-man roster from the previous week. On the Sioux Falls side, they haven't really updated anything on their roster, so what you see is what you get. We'll see what they have when the snaps are taken at kickoff. So 25-man rosters. Let's go check out our bet and move on with the other previews. All right, best bet here. Over-unders have not been kind to me in the last 2 games, but we'll run it back here. Over 77.5. Now, the reason why, Sioux Falls is not Iowa. I think Sioux Falls can put up some points here. Tulsa put up their end of the bargain last week with 39 of their own. I know Sioux Falls probably has a little bit better of a defense and a little bit better of an offense. Please pray that the over 77.5 hits here. I'm kidding. Yeah, that's just my thing. I think both these offenses are pretty good. If the defenses can shut either side down, then we might run into a little bit of an issue. But over 77.5 is my bet. I think these guys will put up some mid-30s numbers. All right, preview number 2 popping up. 5:05 Central Time, YouTube and Caffeine TV. Desert Diamond Arena, Glendale, Arizona. The 2-0 San Diego Strike Force are headed to the Arizona Rattlers. The Snake Pit, baby. 1-2 Arizona, a losing record. Are they the underdog? Well, no, not really. You see it down below. Nate Davis. He's not a scrambler. This could help out for Arizona. We'll talk about that here in a second. 408 yards for Nate Davis, 10 touchdowns, only 1 interception here. Trayvon Van only has 37 yards rushing. We'll talk about that here in a second. And Arthur Jackson, 113 yards on 10 catches with 4 touchdowns. Offensively for Arizona, Lorenzo Brown, 281 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. Granted, he has played, 1.5 games. Shannon Brooks, 79 yards on 21 carries for 4 touchdowns. And Glenn Gibbons Jr., 15 receptions, 221, and 7 touchdowns. Question I need to ask here is, I don't know who's starting. Haven't had time to go read ArizonaCentral.com or really get a good handle of who they have starting at quarterback, if Shannon Brooks is back or if they're still going with CJ Odom. And I'm assuming Glenn Gibbons will still be there with Isaiah Houston, Jamal Miles, what have you. So curious to see who's going to be starting at the quarterback position. We'll probably talk more about that in the 25-man roster. Defensively, San Diego's defense, and I know I said it in their San Diego preview, they are good. They are really good. Now, granted, they gave up 61 points to San Antonio and they shut down Duke City. So how good is this defense? I think this will be a good litmus test for them. Jaquan Artiste picking up right where he left off from a few years ago when he was Defensive Player of the Year. 11.5 tackles and 5.5 tackles for a loss. Sherrod Williams, 10 tackles, half tackle for loss, and 1 fumble recovery. And Keyshawn Walker, 7 tackles, 2 picks, and 1 pass breakup. They're getting after it. It's not just those guys to highlight. I mean, they're getting Armani Carey. They're getting Byron Cooper in the mix. They're getting Fox and everyone else in the secondary involved as well. I look for San Diego to really see what they can do to shut down both sides of the ball when it comes to Arizona. It's a very balanced attack for the Rattlers. Right when you think you've got the pass shut down, they're going to run it on you. And right when you think you've got the run shut down, they're going to pass it on you. And they will mix and match. Kevin Guy is a mastermind when it comes to that. So it's going to be a good litmus test to see how this defense goes against this offense. And the mystery is we don't know who's starting. Defensively for Arizona, Harold Love, 9.5 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 safety, and a partridge in a pear tree. He's been all over the place. He at the nose guard position is just wrecking the center, and he is getting after the quarterback. And right behind him is Connor Taylor on the blitz, 11.5 tackles, 1 fumble recovery. He's causing pressure. He's causing throwaways. He's causing quarterbacks to scramble. Downside is when he does that, the quarterbacks tend to scramble for quite a few yards. Jermaine Dobbs, 15.5 tackles, 2 pass breakups. I think the secondary is obviously going to be the key to stopping the passing game for San Diego here. Talk about players to watch. Obviously, wide receiver Arthur Jackson, 7 catches, 90 yards, 4 touchdowns. You got to do it. You got to continue passing the ball. You can't really switch it up right now. You know what San Diego is at this point. They're not going to just come out and rush for 150 yards in this game. You got to get Jackson involved. You've got to get Jordan Kress involved. Trayvon Van's got to come out of the backfield. I'm not sure if Randall Grimes is in or if they're going with Isaiah Cox again. We'll figure that out. But I think right now that passing game as a whole is going to be huge for San Diego. Defensively, Jaquan Artiste, 6.5 tackles. I think that should be half tackle for a loss. Again, my mistake there on the editing. That being said, he got after it against San Antonio, but again, the passing game for San Antonio was pretty damn good too. It has been all season. We'll see what a balanced attack for Arizona brings for the defensive line here, but like I said, I expect San Diego to maybe shut down one of the phases for Arizona and see if you can make them one-dimensional. We say that not knowing who's going to be starting really. They keep it such a mystery there in Arizona, and maybe they don't, and I just haven't read enough. Speaking of the Rattlers, wide receiver Glenn Gibbons Jr., 4 catches, 73 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's a Randy Moss stat line. I know I say that quite a bit when it comes to stat lines, but 4 catches for 4 touchdowns, that's amazing. In any phase of the game, 73 yards. He was catching anything and everything against Bay Area, and that was a pretty damn good defense too. Look at what Bay Area did to shut down Jacksonville. Glenn Gibbons, if you can get past Keyshawn Walker, if you can get past that secondary, I look for a little bit of the passing game to open up for Arizona here and see if they can really test San Diego's defense. Defensively, Jermaine Dobbs, 6 tackles, 1 pass breakup. Same thing. Jermaine Dobbs, Merriweather, Winfrey, whatever the case could be, that secondary has to be stout today. You know what Nate Davis is going to do. Stop him. stop them passing, make them try and run. You know Nate Davis isn't going to run. If he does, it's not going to be for a lot of yardage. It's no knock on the guy. He's just been a veteran of the game for so long. His legs don't work like they used to. You tore his ACL. I remember. You tore his ACL. But, yeah, that being said, I'm looking forward to this game to see how well they can shut down Nate Davis in the passing. Let's go on to the series history. Arizona leads at 3-0, with the last game being a 57-48 Arizona win in Week 15 in, it wasn't Glendale, it was in Phoenix. Rattlers are a 2.5-point favorite. They're favored on the money line, and the over-under is 96. So expecting points in this one. Let's go check out the 25-man roster, check out our bets, and we'll move on with the final preview. All right, before the 25-man roster pops up here, I do just want to clarify, I'm not accusing Arizona of headhunting Nate Davis. Duke City a few years ago was trying to twist Drew Powell's knee or ankle or something at the end of the pile, and Arizona took matters into their own hands. So whatever side of the fight you were on, that was years ago. Hopefully cooler heads have prevailed by then, but hey, I remember that. That was not a fun game. 25-man roster here, and a little bit more of the same. On the Arizona side, nothing really changes. Kevin Guy doesn't really update his roster except like maybe midway through the season. So the best I can really do is who plays. CJ Odom got in the last game, and that was really the William Lake got in there too on the offensive line. So maybe they're just testing out a different offensive lineman. That's really it. That's really it when it comes to the Rattlers. For the San Diego Strike Force, kind of the same. Like I said, I think the biggest question that you're going to have to ask here is, do they change out defensive linemen? Does DeVito Mwanga get in? Ben Moa, does he start or does he come off the bench? Does Javian Williams get in? I'm not sure. Does Randall Grimes come back from an injury? I don't know. I know it says that he's on IR on their team website, but I'm not sure. So expect more of the same from both of these teams. I don't know if they'll, churn out the same starting lineups, but here we go. All right, best bet, Arizona money line. Stop number 4 for the Kevin Guy Redemption Tour. You cannot go 0-3. You just absolutely cannot go 0-3 or 1-3. Excuse me. You can't go 1-3 here. You can't lose back-to-back games at home. You got to win. You got to find a way to win. I don't know if it's going to be home cooking from the refs. I'm kidding. There's got to be a way for Arizona to win this game. If they don't, you have a lot of issues that you need to figure out. But on the San Diego side, you got to come in here and quiet the crowd as quickly as you can. Score quickly, score often. Simple as that. However, I think Arizona is going to do just enough to win this game. We'll talk about previews and predictions with Aaron in a second, but Arizona money line, best bet. All right, final preview for the day, 5:05 Central Time kickoff, YouTube and Caffeine TV, Tucson Arena in Tucson, Arizona. Bay Area 2-0 at the Tucson Sugar Skulls, 1-1 on the season for them. You look at the leaders here, Daquan Neal and Malik Mitchell lead in both passing and rushing for their respective teams. Kind of some even stats, but Malik Mitchell, let's talk about him for a quick sec. He'll be my player to watch down below. You see it. Over 400 yards, 430 total offensive yards with 12 touchdowns. Player of the week on the offensive side for the Indoor Football League this last week. He's been a really good surprise for this. We didn't know what to expect. We thought it was going to be two different quarterbacks going into this season between Jeremy Hickbottom and Nico Hollins. Malik Mitchell's been a nice little diamond in the rough for Billy Back and crew. So I'm expecting kind of a nice little mirror between these teams. Daquan Neal, obviously former MVP, champion. I mean, he not to be outdone by Malik Mitchell. This guy is really good too. I expect both these guys to sling the ball around, run the ball pretty well. Look, like I said, kind of some mirror images. This should be a really good game. On the Bay Area side, Pierre Williams, 11 catches, 127 yards and a touchdown. Mike Kerrigan, 8 catches, 108 yards and 0 touchdowns. So a little bit less on the stats for Kerrigan, but hey, if you get 3 more catches, maybe that's more yardage and maybe you get another touchdown. But what's that saying to me? That's saying that these wide receivers are being able to move the chains. They're getting some nice catches. They're getting probably some good yak as well. These wide receivers are kind of the go-to guys. I expect, like I said, a little bit more of the same. Defensively, Tavon Grant, Wes Bowers, Antoine Kincaid lead for the Bay Area Panthers. Tavon Grant's my player to watch. You see that down there as well. He was just a beast last week against Jacksonville. 8 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 pass breakup on the season. I look for more of the same. If they can get in there and disrupt Malik Mitchell, I'm expecting some pressure. Get these guys to scramble. I'll say the same thing on the other side. Braden Utley is my player to watch on the defensive side for Tucson. He had 4.5 tackles last week, 1 block. I guess I'll just merge these 2 segments together. 8 tackles, 1.5 tackles for a loss, and 1 block kick for Braden Utley on the season. Both the defensive lines need to get after the respective quarterback. Malik Mitchell, Daquan Neal, they can both scramble. They can carve you up as well. So getting pressure on these quarterbacks consistently, making them throw the ball away, ruining their timing routes, really, I mean, it can be up to the secondary too to jam the wide receivers at the line and really disrupt those timing routes to get the passing games off kilter. It's just kind of these teams are mirror images of each other. So I'm not really sure what to expect. It might just come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. I mean, that's probably what it comes down to 90% of the time when it comes to some of these games. But when you consider the last 3 games that we have had that have been final this week in week 5, you've not necessarily seen like blowouts, but you've kind of seen some convincing wins. I expect this one to be a lot closer than those. Going down to the series history here, Tucson actually leads 3-2. The last meeting, Bay Area got the best of them in the quarterfinals of the playoffs last year, 46-34. Bay Area, however, and Vegas, for that matter, are not buying any Tucson hype in this game, though. 7.5-point favorites for the Panthers. Money line clearly juiced to Bay Area, and over under of 95.5. So they're predicting a pretty high scoring game with Bay Area just pretty much coming out on top by a touchdown. So let's go check out the 25-man rosters. Best bet. We'll go talk to Aaron. Get on out of here. All right, 25-man roster popping up here, and no changes to Bay Area. As always, these are the 21 guys who started in the previous game. Quite a few changes for Tucson, however. They did update their roster. I checked at midnight last night as I was finishing up my Quad City recap, and Zion DeBose is not on the roster. They've signed Jalen Marshall, Cordell Brewster, and I finally found the name Rodriga, I believe is his name. Rodrigo Lewis, defensive back. I couldn't figure out who he was for the life of me when they were playing against Duke City. So Tucson kind of shaking things up a little bit. You need a new defensive lineman. I'm expecting either Caleb Tanner to get back in there, go Big Red. So he's either going to be that starting defensive lineman, or they're going to put Dominion Azinwa back in there. He played for Tucson for a few games last year, so not sure which way they go in that regard. I could also see them kind of tinkering with the wide receivers. Maybe Torrance Gibson gets in there. Maybe Jalen Marshall gets in there on the wide receiver side. I don't know if they take out Chris Jackson or CJ Tate, but that's what you do. So that being said, let's go check out our best bet, and we will get on out of here. All right, best bet, fade it. At this point, fade it. Under 95.5. I just think Bay Area's defense is pretty good. I hope Tucson kind of lives up to their defensive billing as well. Unders have not been kind this week. Unders were great in the first couple of weeks because no one knew what to expect from each team, but now that Vegas is kind of self-corrected, fade it. I don't care. Make money off me. I don't care. Under 95.5. I think it's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. I know Tucson. I know both these quarterbacks can scramble. Malik Mitchell is probably going to run like crazy. Daquan Neal is going to run like crazy, but I'm hoping that just wastes time. However, as you saw in the last couple of games, it just takes a couple deep shots to ruin it, or a score with 5 seconds left. So, what can you do? But under 95.5, I think they can score some points, but maybe it's about 90. I don't know. But hey, fade it. That's all I'm going to say. Fade it, and maybe I can tell you I told you so. But there we go. Let's go talk to Aaron and get on out of here. All right, welcome back to Aaron's IFL Corner. I want to kind of speed through this. Apologies to Aaron. As you always know, he's here. See his picture pop up. As usual, go check out his stuff on the UFL News Hub. Final article. I know I'm getting this out late, so maybe you just don't have enough time to read the final 3 previews, or maybe you read them all when you first went on and read it back on Friday. That being said, I want to try and speed through this. I apologize to Aaron, but I got to edit the video, do all that stuff, and try and get this out before kickoff. So without further ado, let's super paraphrase this. So first game up, Tulsa and Sioux Falls. Starting on the Tulsa side, they come into Sioux Falls with the momentum of getting their first win on the season against Iowa. Defensively, they've got one of the best in the league. They should be able to terrorize Billy Hall. Offensively, the Oilers are starting to find their stride with Daniel Smith and his weapons. Winning on the road is difficult, but their defense can force turnovers, and they can pick up a big win in confidence. Sioux Falls, on the other hand, is in transition, and they've looked the part to start the season. Billy Hall, Xavier Jackson, and Kentrez Bell have been able to help the Storm score points, but defensively, the Storm have several great defensive linemen, but in the back end, they've struggled to stop opposing offenses. I'm rambling and getting ahead of myself here. So, is it an upset? I'm not necessarily sure. 42-38, Aaron has Tulsa winning on the road. For myself, though, I'm not so sure. There's no way I see it. Sioux Falls starting 0-3. I've got it pretty much switched around. 42-36. I think the Storm get their first win of the year. Moving on to game number 5. San Diego and Arizona. Strike Force are undefeated as they come into Glendale. Offensively, the Strike Force features an explosive passing game behind Nate Davis, as always. Defensively, the Strike Force have not really been able to stop their opponents, resulting in putting pressure on the offense to keep scoring. This week may be a game in which the Strike Force need to find a running game and a way to control the pace. Otherwise, they may be on the wrong end of a shootout. On the Arizona side, Rattlers have to deal with significant complications at their quarterback position as they open the season with a big win at Northern Arizona. If Snead doesn't return to the lineup, then it's Lorenzo Brown again, trying to get the ball down to the wide receivers. Defensively, the Rattlers have struggled to stop dual-threat quarterbacks, but this week they face a pocket passer, so hopefully that brings a little bit of levity to the defensive side for Arizona. His prediction, I forgot to do predictions. His prediction, he has Arizona winning 55-48. On my end, kind of close as well too. 52-45. I think there's going to be points. I still expect Arizona to win. It's kind of like the Sioux Falls thing. There's no way you go 1-3. There's just no way you start out 1-3. If you do, you've got a lot of problems. Finally, end of week 5, Tucson and Bay Area. On the Bay Area side, they come into Tucson with one of the most balanced teams in the Indoor Football League. Offensively, DeQuan Neal and Shane Simpson have been nearly unstoppable in their first 2 games. Yeah, you can say that again. Defensively, the Panthers have been one of the best units in the Indoor Football League, which is unsurprising. With defensive mastermind Rob Keefens. Going on the road is difficult for any team in the Indoor Football League, and this week they face one of the most robust running games in the IFL. Sugar Skulls are led by Malik Mitchell and running back Mike Jones. Talking about the Sugar Skulls, they are led by Billy Back and boast a dominant running game that allows them to dictate the pace. Bay Area's defense will be significantly more robust than the defenses that Tucson has played all year. So the Sugar Skulls may have to rev up their passing game if they expect a big home win against the Panthers. Final game of the week, it's an upset special for Aaron. 50-48. He has Tucson winning at home. I have it completely different. 38-34. I think the defenses take over. Again, fade me. Fade me because I've been wrong so many times. I've got Bay Area winning, and even if it's not as close or low scoring as that one, I still think that they can win. Maybe alternating those scores, 50-48 Bay Area. These are just 2 mirror image teams of each other. But that's it for us. I've got to go edit this video. Yeah, that's really it. Till then, hopefully, like, comment, subscribe, blah, 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 all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, see you.